morning. Welcome to the Royals Rundown Podcast, episode Mischief and Mayhem. How are we today, boys?
All right. Well, apparently Honey is running the podcast today. Hello, everyone. I'm the normal person you hear from first. I'm Jacob Milham. Plug social media here, plug social media there. Jeremy, how we doing this morning, man?
It's Sunday morning. It's a beautiful Sunday morning. The sun is shining directly in my eyes. I wish that I was a little bit like Greg today. Had some sunglasses going on in all kinds of weird ways, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see what his next sunglasses position is going to be. I think he's going to have them on the back of his head like Guy Fieri used to do in Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. I think that's the move.
Honestly, the thing is right now that we're just waiting for him to come back on the show, right? Because we asked him that Olympics question, and then
I need to know.
I can't be there.
Ghosted.
Need to know.
Oh, Greg. Well, we'll get him eventually. Hopefully this upcoming Wednesday. But hey, before we get into more Royals news and analysis, so we had Kyle Kirchhoff on the show last time, and frankly, I failed. Great interview. Please go back and listen to it. Awesome stuff. Absolutely loved talking to Kyle. But what I failed to do is I failed to read off some of the responses to our Spotify Q&As. Yeah, it's the first time in a while I've forgotten, but I got some catching up to do. I know. Hey, listen, I'm here for the listeners, honey. I'm here for them. So we got quite a few to get through. So let's see here. On our interview with John Coxis, the Columbia Fireflies broadcaster, we asked you, are there any other teams you might want more insight into other than the Royals? Just talking about the minor league teams. And well, that's at least what that question was directed at. But then Luke 57 said, would love more Philadelphia Flyers content. So
I want more Phillies content on this podcast, please.
Well, honey, the Phillies are at the same place the Royals are right now. They're at home, okay, because they lost. Remember?
They did fire two of their coaches.
Yeah. So that's something.
Something the Royals don't like to do, even when they lose 90 some odd games. Really.
Yeesh. Luke went on to say, in reality, I do enjoy the Royals minor league insight. So thank you very much, Luke. And then he also responded to our other episode titled Front Office Gaps and Pitching Coach Results. We asked you there, do you like the longer movie movement? 3.5 hours is just a long time. Talking about some of the quote unquote issues with modern cinema. And Luke said 3 hours is exhausting. I'm a pretty big fan of watching movies in theaters, but it's really stopping me from going because it's too freaking long. Luke, I do agree with that, I will say, especially if it's more of a narrative-based movie. I need an intermission. I need, give me 15 minutes, go stretch my legs, go to the bathroom, whatever I need to do. If it's like Avengers Endgame, I'm going to be pretty engaged the entire time, but I'm going to be tired afterwards.
That's really an excellent point. I think the 3-hour movies would do a lot better with an intermission. And it's not like
so go see a play.
Yeah, stage plays still have intermissions.
That's true.
There's no reason movies can't. There's usually good breaking points in there somewhere. I don't think you want to write your movie for that, but I think you can find it if you're looking for it for sure.
Yeah. And then lastly, we talked about the World Series matchup a little bit and the response to that after our Kyle Kirchhoff interview. And we asked you, the listeners, are you mad at the Diamondbacks and Rangers World Series matchup? Because it was kind of a response from many of the talking heads around baseball, was that this was a bad matchup for the sport and this was going to be a boring World Series. Well, if you've watched the first 2 games of this World Series, it has been anything but boring.
Especially
so far.
The first game.
Oh my gosh, that first game was nuts. But we got 4 responses to this question, so thank you very much, everyone. Ooh. Royal Rupert said, I am a Royals fan. I love the underdog World Series. Yep, you better believe it. That's the only way the Royals season went in 2014 and 2015. Ginger said, "Not at all. I love the unpredictable chaos of baseball playoffs lately. May chaos take the world." Ginger sounds like a person after Honey's heart right now. Aiden Dallas, I hope I'm saying that right, said, "No, big market teams are wonderful." So I know the Rangers are in a big market. I don't know if the Diamondbacks technically are. Are they not? Yeah,
No, not really.
Yeah, I didn't think so, but that's fine. And then Aaron Bailey said, "Nope, it shows that if you make it to the dance, anything can happen." Aaron, absolutely love that. That is the whole point of why we have the playoffs.
Yeah, it goes back to what we were talking about before about like, oh, the best team should be in the World Series. Well, then why have the playoffs?
Yeah.
If you're just going to be like, yeah, it's the teams that won the most games during the regular season in the World Series. Okay, well then let's just cut the playoffs out. Let's go straight to the World Series.
Exactly. Like that's all that's going to happen. Let's see here. Okay. So let's go and roll right into the Royals transactions because we have some other things to talk about this episode. So since our last episode, there are a few transactions that went official. First, the Baltimore Orioles claimed Tucker Davidson off waivers from the Kansas City Royals. Now, Davidson was a trade acquisition of the Royals at this past trade deadline for cash considerations. He was likely going to be a 40-man casualty, in my opinion anyways, so best of luck to Davidson there in Baltimore. We will see what happens because
he was a 40-man casualty.
Oh, well, yeah, sorry.
The only other team Jacob likes, the Orioles.
Yes. Yep, that is very, very true. Well, other baseball team I like. Let's see here. So Taylor Hearn, I want to say we might have talked about this, but Taylor Hearn cleared waivers. He was sent to the Omaha Storm Chasers.
I thought he refused the assignment.
Well, their official transaction wire is saying that he was sent to Omaha, but I'm pulling up. So let's see. Max had a good update on this.
Yeah, because there was reporting that he was going to, and then some people took that and said he had. But then it does look like he did accept the assignment, which, okay. He's arbitration eligible, so he could still end up not on the roster next year. The Royals might just non-tender him, but we'll see.
That we will. And then lastly, the Cincinnati Reds claimed outfielder Bubba Thompson off waivers from the Kansas City Royals. Thompson was a former top prospect in the Rangers system. He was available on the waiver wire. The Royals picked him up, and he did all right in AAA Omaha. But frankly,
he was improved over what he had done in Texas.
Yeah, he was. Like, he was definitely taking the right steps forward, but he was another guy that, hey, we have more controllable and more productive players to add to the 40-man, so we're going to move on from Thompson. So
see, this is why I celebrate when guys like Tucker Davidson, who I said wasn't going to be in the roster, aren't on the roster. Because I also said Bubba Thompson would be on the opening day roster.
Yeah.
And that is not looking like a good prediction.
Nope, not at this point. So that's all the rumors that we have at this point. That is all
you forgot Tyler Cropley. I know we talked about it already.
You know what?
Tyler Cropley was removed and outrighted to Omaha.
Yes, that he was. Thank you very much for that. I for some reason I thought we had talked about that on the last episode, but you are right. We did talk
about Cropley and Davidson, but just to kind of summarize, 4 guys removed from the 40-man roster.
So
and then
go ahead.
And then the Royals will lose 3 more when free agency hits. Zach Greinke, Brad Keller, and one more guy I'm blanking. Matt Duffy, of course.
Yes.
Will hit free agency. So that would give the Royals, you would think, 33 40-man spots, or they would have 33 spots taken, but they have 8 guys on the 60-day IL. So they're still 1 over.
Yes, that they are. So Jeremy, this is a good segue into something that you brought up talking about. So looking at that field of 8 guys that are on the 60-day IL, I'm going to go ahead and read them off before I get your opinion on which ones could be, releasable or players that the Royals are likely to move on from Give me 1 second. Honey is raising her hand.
I have a question.
Okay.
So, 40-man roster. Do MLB teams, like, throughout normal season have a roster or team that is 40 people in size? Or are they, like, allowed to start with 40 on opening day and then they have to cut it?
So what they have is they have the 26-man active roster,
Okay.
which are the players that are allowed to play in a given major league game. And then they have the 40-man roster, which is going to have the 14 extra players who are going to be in the minor leagues. But you can call them up without making any kind of roster transaction. Except that you have to remove someone from your active roster, and depending on their status, you might have to release them. They might have to go through waivers, etc., based on their options. It gets complicated, but the basic idea of the 40-man roster is these 14 guys are guys that you can put on your active roster without having to make any other changes with them.
Okay, so they're alternates.
Basically, yeah.
Or second string. Okay, see. Listen, there might be new girls listening, okay?
No, absolutely.
Taylor Swift Kelsey crossover. Maybe some girls are trying to understand baseball more for their husbands or their partners or whatever, and that's what I did, so thank you for answering the newbie question. Continue with your analysis and your 8 names on that IL.
Thank you very much, honey. Do appreciate that.
To 7.
Yes. All right, so looking at this 60-day IL, we have pitchers Jake Brentz, the beloved Chris Bubich, Austin Cox, Daniel Lynch IV, and I want to add, I just found out this week that he's the first to have the 4th. Like, he's the first MLB player to ever have the 4th on his jersey, so I thought that was kind of cool. Still sticking with pitchers, we have Josh Stalmont and Josh Taylor. Catcher Freddie Fermin, and first baseman Vinny Pasquantino. All those players are on the 60-day IL. So looking at that even just from that group, there has to be one that has to go.
Or they'd have to remove someone else from the 40-man.
Yeah, that's true. But I feel like I'm more liable to believe that they would move on from someone coming off the 60-day IL, just seeing how their recovery is and things like that. Mm-hmm. But going back to it, Jeremy, listening to that group, who do you think is most likely to be gone or most expendable?
Josh Taylor, he's got to be gone. There's no reason to keep him on the roster. He has barely pitched for 2 years now due to injury. He did not pitch at all in 2022, and he wasn't good when he did pitch in 2023. So he's got to be gone. Josh Stalmont is another guy I think could be gone. If Dayton Moore was still the general manager, there's no way. But Dayton Moore is not still the general manager. So I think Stalmont's time could be, he's been injured a lot again and ineffective. So, and when you don't got a lot of room to just kind of have a guy on your roster like that. He's the potential is no longer worth anything. He's too old.
Yeah.
At least for the Royals. For another team, maybe you think you can fix him, you bring him on in a minor league deal, but I think it's time for a change of scenery for Josh Stalmont. Jake Brentz isn't going anywhere. I would be very surprised if Chris Bubich or Daniel Lynch IV went anywhere. Vinny Pasquantino, Freddie Fermin aren't going anywhere.
Nope.
And that leaves one that I have forgotten. Who did
Vinny, Freddie, Taylor, Stalmont, Lynch, Cox.
Austin Cox. So he's kind of on the bubble for me. Again, a guy who, if it was Dayton Moore, would not be gone under any circumstances. He was reasonably good as a reliever this year. He was not amazing. The other thing is that with the injury he has, it seems unlikely he will pitch in 2024, or if he does, it would be very late in the year. So I could see a scenario where the Royals kind of do like they did with Jake Brentz, where they cut him and then try to bring him back on a minor league deal, or something like that, where they could free up that 40-man spot and not lock themselves into a salary for a guy who's just not going to pitch next year.
Yeah, I think that's a very likely scenario there. And also, depending on how Bubic's recovery is going, they might try to do something like that with him as well.
He should be available to pitch earlier in the year than Cox. Because
Yes,
he was injured fairly early in the year. It all depends on his recovery timeline.
right.
Because the Tommy John can go anywhere from 11 to like 18 months, and you just don't know. If it's going to be more like the 18 months, then he would miss most of the season, if not all of it. If it's more like 11 months, he'd be ready to go at the start of the year. So it's just a question of where on that timeline does he fit, and of course we have no idea.
Right.
So
yeah, we don't have any insight there. We're just putting out what we do know about that recovery timeline. I would only advocate for the Royals taking him off the 40-man roster and re-signing him to a minor league deal if it is looking like it's going to be closer to that 17 to 18 month mark. If it's anything less than that, I want him to hold on.
Yeah, and I think they've got to do some due diligence, even if they want to do that, to make sure nobody else is going to get their hands on him.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people aren't impressed with Kris Bubic. I'm telling you, this guy, he's worth having around. I'm not excited for Kris Bubic just because I'm some kind of idiot fanboy. He's got some real stuff working for him. And I think the Royals would benefit from having him on their roster.
I do agree.
I think his floor is as a very good reliever who could give you probably 2 innings of like really strong relief, which is not a thing you see anymore. You see guys give you amazing 1-inning relief. You see guys give you really sketchy 1-inning relief. Multi-inning relievers they're not a thing, but I think Kris Bubic, that's his floor.
Okay. I like it. Bless you. Thank you. That is that's looking at the names that are just on the 60-day IL. So if I'm understanding this this timeline correctly, what happens is after the World Series, those 3 free agents that you talked about, Jeremy, Zach Greinke, Brad Keller, Matt Duffy, they will come off the 40-man roster.
Right.
After the World Series concludes. Now, the Royals have to figure out what they're going to do with those 60-day IL players within 5 days.
I heard
the conclusion
3.
Of 3. Okay.
It's very quick. They don't have to do it immediately, but they do have to do it very quickly.
Hold up. I've been trying to say something for 5 minutes and I didn't know I was muted.
Oh, wow. Lovely.
We had some mayhem earlier with my newbie question, so I'm going to throw in the mischief of the episode and say that I think they're going to cut Kris Bubic just to make Jeremy angry.
Wow.
I mean, I know that some people with the Royals are not super happy with me, but I don't think that they would go that far.
Oh, yeah? Tell us more, Jeremy. Tell us more.
I think I've said as much as I need to say on that.
Fair enough.
This is like the episode where we explained your union article, and you said, for the record, like, they know who I am. This is not like somebody they don't give a crap. Like, they are well aware of who I am and who I write for, and they chose to ignore me.
Yep.
Yeah, Royals Review has made a mark where the Royals are aware of them. I mean, Matthew Lamar has gotten press credentials more than once and gone in and interviewed players. Interviewed, I think Max and Matt actually had an interview with JJ Piccolo last year. I just think it's great that they know who you are enough that it's plausible that they might get rid of someone that angers you. Oh boy!
Just to cause some.
There's your mischief for the
episode.
Life. The Royals are going to cut Kris Bubic.
Oh boy, yeah, that would be very mayhem-inducing. But Jeremy, there's I think the real mayhem-inducing is the Royals are going to trade Cole Reagans, right? They're gonna move on from him.
I mean, that's the only move that makes sense, right? Is to you got to package Cole Reagans and Bobby Witt Jr. together, and go out there and get yourself Mike Trout, and make sure you pay that full salary.
Yep.
And then, you know, and the reason I say Mike Trout is because he has been injured. I hate it so much.
I do
He's been
too.
injured so much the last couple of years that you just cannot count on that high level superstar production anymore.
Nope, sure can't. That was a joke. Everyone, they're not going to trade Cole Reagans to clear a 40-man spot. But Jeremy, I'm looking through the 40-man roster right now, and I am seeing some names that I'm like, okay, well, I think the Royals could and should move on from some of these players. Before I start spouting off some of mine, who are ones that I want to focus on, realistic ones that the Royals will move on from? Who are some that stand out to you?
Well, you know I told you at the beginning, I was like, yeah, I got this on lockdown. I'm ready to go. And then I was like, oh yeah, who's on the 40-man roster again? I know that I have some names off the top of my head that I was like, these guys could be gone. I think that trades are still a real possibility for Salvador Perez and Brady Singer, but then you'd probably be bringing back major league talent for them. Mm-hmm. So you're not clearing 40-man roster spots with them. Max Castillo is a guy who could go, I think. Let's see, as I scroll through here real good. Jordan Lyles, he's sticking around. Sorry, y'all. He's not going anywhere.
No.
You know, Angel Zerpa, I think could be a surprise.
You think so?
Cut. I don't really expect it, but if he did get cut, I wouldn't be like, oh, that's the worst thing that's ever happened. I would be like, yeah, okay, I can see where that makes sense. Nick Prado is another guy that I think could be like a surprise cut.
You
like,
think
I don't
so?
think it's going to happen.
Okay.
But I think it would make sense if it did. I've heard some people talk about Samad Taylor. I think that his versatility and his speed mean that they really would like to not do that. Mm-hmm. And Nate Eaton is probably the last one on the list here that I think. And again, I would hate that because I'm a huge Nate Eaton fan. I really thought he was going to be Gerard Dyson, the second coming of Gerard Dyson. And it's really unfortunate that he had such an awful start to the 2023 season.
Yeah, he did. And it just, like, it was not even on a Royals curve. It was bad.
Yeah.
It was horrendous.
Like 40 at bats without a hit or something ridiculous.
It was a really long streak. I think he only had like 4 hits his entire time in the MLB, and he was on the 26-man roster until like June.
Yeah.
I definitely agree on Nate Eaton. Before I go through mine, I want to clarify this. I don't like talking about players, losing their jobs and losing their 40-man roster spot. It is a part of the sport, though, and
most of these guys are going to find jobs.
Yeah,
elsewhere. They're going to get offers. These are not guys that nobody sees any value in.
Exactly, and you know what?
Chris Owings, when the Royals cut him, he went out and he's had multiple. He's played for multiple teams since then since he played for the Royals, and so
Yeah, I mean, listen, I didn't like Johnny Giavotella in his time with the Royals, but I saw him playing for the AAA of the Baltimore Orioles a couple of years ago. So hey, it is these folks still find jobs. I think Nate Eaton is going to be an interesting one. He is playing more infield down in the Dominican Pro League right now, so getting back to some of those roots. I just don't know if they're going to give him another shot.
He would be really easy to cut for the production, but he's really hard to cut because, again, of that versatility, that defensive ability that he brings, the speed he brings. And it's like, man, having a fifth outfielder or a guy who you can call up who has a little bit of major league experience, because if you cut him, they've got Dyron Blanco, Kyle Isbell, MJ Melendez, Edward Olivares, Nelson Velasquez, Drew Waters on the big league roster right now. So Olivares is going to be gone. I wouldn't be surprised to see Melendez gone. So that gives you 4 guys. Yeah. So any of them get hurt, suddenly you need another outfielder Right now, the only other outfielder on the 40 man is Diego Hernandez.
Yeah.
And I think the Royals are high on him, but he doesn't have major league experience. Do you really just want to be like, well, you're here now, good luck? Yeah. And they could add a John Rave to the 40 man maybe, so they could figure that stuff out. But Nate Eaton, it's not like he has nothing to offer, is all I'm trying to say.
And I very much agree. I think people easily forget that in 2022, we were all talking about Bobby Witt Jr.'s raw speed. Nate Eaton still had a top 30 sprint speed and was second on the team behind Bobby Witt Jr. He still has elite speed on the base paths and in the field. So it's definitely something to watch. I think the decision might come down to Dairon Blanco and Nate Eaton because both of them do offer similar tools. And Nate
Dairon Blanco gets it, then he keeps the roster spot. I think
the only edge is Eaton has a little bit more power, and he's 4 years younger than Dairon Blanco.
Blanco's actually done it.
What do you say?
Blanco's actually done it. He's had success.
That's true. So it's definitely something to watch.
And when you're talking, I mean, we're not talking about like, who's going to turn into an elite starting outfielder for the Royals. We're talking about who's the fourth guy, who's the fifth guy. 30 years old. I know we've talked about Dairon Blanco, like he's not a future piece. He's 30 years old, but he can be a 40-man, a fourth outfielder piece now, and that's fine. And he's still on his rookie contract, so it's not like, oh, well, we could save money by going to some other. No, you can't. It's as cheap as it gets.
That's true. That, he's still very controllable. Still has a lot of years under contract with the Royals as well. We were talking about the defensive versatility and how that might make Nate Eaton's case a little bit easier. On the flip side, I'm looking at the people that they have listed under the infield, and there's multiple players there that have played the outfield. Yeah. So I think that might change things. Go ahead.
You talked about a competition maybe between Eaton and Blanco. I would wonder if it might be more between Eaton and Taylor.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because they both have that versatility of playing the infield, outfield. They're both fast.
Yeah.
So that might be where it's at.
That's true. That's true. And they're both at very similar points in their career, age-wise as well. Definitely. I think I want to dive into Samad Taylor's 2023 season a little bit more because I think I was viewing it a little bit through rose-colored glasses, and that
because he had that game-winning hit.
Yeah.
In the first game, of course. Even during that game-winning hit, which I was watching because it was a Sunday game, so I had to watch that one,
right?
Or at least felt compelled to watch it. That hit is an out under normal circumstances. The outfielders were playing very in because he doesn't have a lot of power, and they wanted to be able to throw the runner out at the plate. And they knew that if he hit it a certain amount of depth, it was not gonna, they weren't going to be able to make the play anyway. So you play your outfielders in, trying to prevent that run from scoring. It was hit deep enough that it was going to score the game-winning run, but it was only a hit because the outfielders were playing in. It was very high. It would have been caught had they been playing normally.
Yeah, that's fair, and that does suck to say, hey, this is actually how it would have been, but it's the truth. I don't see any infielders, honestly, that they have listed that I could see them just outright moving on from taking off the 40-man roster. I was looking at how the last offseason went, and trades didn't really start until late November and then the winter meetings time frame. So I don't think we can rely on the Royals clearing 40-man roster spots via trade right now.
No,
I could be wrong. They could prove me wrong on that. The pitchers are where it's at. I'm gonna say this. Taylor Clark's not going anywhere in my mind on the 40-man roster. I think
like he's gonna be on the 40-man next year?
Yeah.
I think you're right.
A lot of, I'm sorry, like people have all sorts of opinions on the Royals bullpen, and that is just fine. But Taylor Clark, go ahead.
Heasley. I forgot Heasley.
Oh, yeah, you think Heasley's the dark horse there?
No, I think he's gone.
Oh, you think he's gone? Really?
Yeah, I think we saw him come up. They tried to basically be like, you're going to be a reliever now. That's it. And we're going to tweak your stuff and you're going to do this and this. And it was just, it worked good for a few outings and then it just completely fell apart. So I don't think it makes sense to keep running him out there. Another guy who, if he's going to find success, is probably with a change of scenery.
Okay. That is, I feel like that's a bold prediction. He did start 21 games for the Royals in 2022, so that would be a very big shift, but we saw a big shift in his production and his stuff this year, so it would match. I think, let's see, amongst the pitchers that you did not list, I think Jackson Kowar is gone. I think that
could be.
I think the Kowar experiment has gone on long enough, and there just hasn't been any improvement. Like, there's been improvement relative to his rookie performance, but it's still bad.
Yeah.
Alec Marsh is safe. Let's see.
Yeah, he's the strikeout stuff is too good to give up on him after 1 year.
Colin Snyder is going to be an interesting one.
Yes, I agree. Because
man, yeah.
Well, go ahead. I'll let you. I won't steal your thunder for like the 5th time this episode.
No, he had a pretty rough performance down the stretch for the Royals.
Did he? I thought
year.
He was good down the stretch. Let me look at these stats again.
Last 7 games, 6 ERA. He gave up 4 earned runs and 6 innings pitched, with 9 hits, 5 walks to 4 strikeouts in those 6 innings.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so that's not too good. And we weren't talking about that because that's when the Royals were winning. Like, that's all late September stuff. So we were just excited that they were winning games. We weren't talking about Colin Snyder. We have talked about him going to Tread Athletics though, and working on some of his, pitch shapes and things like that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens there. I think he sticks around on the 40-man, but he is on the bubble come spring training if any other relievers pop up.
Yeah, you're dead on. I do wonder if we're both putting a little too much weight on what we're seeing him do at Tread.
Probably so.
Because I think we're excited about Tread because we saw how Cole Reagan's improved after working with them. And we're watching these guys pitch and getting the positive vibes, positive press. So we're like, yeah, I want to root for this guy. I think he's going to be better. But the Royals could be like, yeah, guys do this every year. We just don't always see it on YouTube.
Exactly.
So they could choose to move on from him, and it would still make a lot of sense, even as excited as we might be getting.
Yeah, and that's just the reality of it. This is seeing players go to places like Tread and Driveline and these third-party places. It's kind of the equivalent of a football player saying that they're in the best shape of their life come training camp. Everyone for the most part is going to look good at those third-party bullpen sessions. So
they probably look really good in the Royals bullpen sessions too. Like, bullpen sessions are just so very different from live pitching. And it actually reminds me of MLB The Show, where they have this mode, this weekly contest mode, where you just play as a batter against a pitcher and there's no fielders. And your objective is to just put as many balls in play as possible. And so a high fly ball counts good for you because it's in play. But in real life, that doesn't work. So it's kind of the same thing with the bullpens, where like, oh yeah, that pitch is good, but the hitter saw that one coming because you didn't sequence well, and now it's over the fence.
Ew. It's been a long time since I played that game. I gotta
tell you, picked up MLB The Show this year just because I was a little bit bored. I haven't played it in years, maybe more than a decade, honestly. And I was just a little bit bored, and I was like, I feel like playing some baseball. So I bought it, and man, I absolutely fell in love with that Diamond Dynasty mode. Fell in love. And I'm almost done with the Diamond Dynasty content now. So I'm just like, now what do I do? So I was like, Madden has the Ultimate Team, I hear, which is very similar to the Diamond Dynasty. I'll go get that. Haven't played Madden in more than a decade. I picked that up last night. And it turns out I don't like playing football video games anymore. Everything just feels, I don't know if I'm just old. Everything feels so complicated.
It's very different, and Honey will attest to this. I used to, hop on Facebook, and people will have like online leagues where you just take over a team, you play so many games a week, and you keep it moving. And like, I used to try to dive into that stuff because folks are just hopping on YouTube and finding out like the broken things of the game, and there's so many. It's gotten to the point of where it feels very realistic in some of the choices like you have to make and things like that. But it's also, there's just some schemes and part of the game that are absolutely broken. So I haven't bought a new Madden in like 3 years, I think.
Yeah.
It was just too frustrating, man. I've got other things to spend my time on than Madden.
The menus are still, how many, it's been more than a decade, and the menus are just as clunky as ever. Like, they take too dang long to load. They're too hard. Like, changing an option should not take more than a second. It should take a fraction of a second. And somehow it's like takes a second and a half. And I'm just like, I don't need all your animations and noises. I need to be able to navigate the menu seamlessly. What is wrong with you?
Well, that's an EA game for you, my friend.
I guess. My goodness.
It is.
I regretted that purchase almost immediately. Unfortunately, I did buy it on the PlayStation Store, which means I cannot return it.
Oof. Well, hey, that is your free Royals review provided by Jeremy Greco for you today. Let's see. I just want to button up this 40-man stuff right now. I am curious if the Royals sent Angel Serpa down to Arizona to kind of, hey, like, this is you.
He's pitching in one of these winter leagues, isn't he?
I don't know. He just had an outing in Arizona. I want to say 2 days ago. ? And he started out really strong, but he ended very poorly. So let's see here. Yeah, October 26th. We're recording this on October 29th. So by the time you're all listening to this, it'll be 4 days ago.
Or more.
Or more. On that outing, he pitched. He started out with 2 innings, 3 hits, no earned runs, no walks, and 4 strikeouts. He came out for another inning, but didn't record an out. And his final line was 2 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, and 4 strikeouts.
Not great.
Yeah, so not amazing, not good. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, though, because I absolutely know that another team is going to scoop him up if the Royals move on from him. He's still only 24 years old, and he is a lefty.
It's not like they need to cut everyone we've talked about.
No, they don't.
They need to cut a couple of them.
Yeah.
So that there's no real reason that they need to move on from him.
I think how many that they cut or how many they move on from within the X amount of days after the World Series is going to tell us how aggressive they are going to be in the off season, though, if that makes sense. Because if they cut just like the minimal amount and it's the no-brainers, then I'm not going to put a whole lot of stock into them being very aggressive out there on the free agent market and trying to make this team better. I know that the signings don't usually start rolling in heavily until late November and early December. And if the Royals find a guy that they love and that they sign, they can move on from the player then. But we all give the Royals flack for how much they don't spend, because that is what we have seen in recent years. And so if they're going through the bargain bin of these free agents, how many can they really look at? One, have a legitimate shot at getting, and two, go, okay, are these folks actually going to be better than what we have on the roster right now?
Okay. Counterpoint.
Yes.
If they cut the minimum, just the no-brainers.
Yeah.
Maybe that signals that they're going to be heavily invested in the trade market.
That's true.
And add these pieces, obviously an Angel Zerpa, a Colin Snyder, a Nate Eaton is not going to get you anything worth having. But if you add them to a Salvador Perez, to a Brady Singer, maybe they eat a little bit more contract. Maybe they send you a lottery ticket piece along with whatever you're grabbing, whoever you're going for. So I think that could be an interpretation of how they handle things as well.
Okay. I like that counterpoint. I do enjoy that. So it's going to be, or I'm certainly hoping it is going to be the opposite of last offseason, and it is going to be a busy offseason for the Kansas City Royals. If you want to keep updated on all things Royals, please go check out royalsreview.com. You can also find them on X and on Facebook. Plus, you can keep up with us on X and on TikTok. TikTok is going to be the best platform for any breaking news that the Royals come out with, because we will be posting our reactions to that platform, Jeremy. Right?
That's the plan.
That's the plan. All right. I like it. Alrighty, man. Well, that 40-man discussion took a lot longer than I was expecting.
I was gonna say, I figured that would be like 10 minutes.
I did as well. Well, I think so. Now we're getting to the meat of our podcast.
Yeah, this is where I expected us to spend all of our time, but
yeah,
well, it is what it is.
It is.
Podcast has already been 40 minutes long.
Exactly.
Yeah. We're tracking.
Oh man. Well.
Y'all wanted some in-depth analysis, right?
Yeah. We are going name by name on the 40-man roster.
We're like through to the magma core of the planet right now.
I think we just used up like 3 weeks of content. No. Oh, but anyways, no, here's so the real story around the Royals this week, man. And you posted a very, very good piece on royalsreview.com yesterday afternoon.
Pretty good one yourself over there on Kings of Kaufman.
Oh, I'm always gonna sing your praises higher than mine, man.
Well, I mean, that's fair.
It's because it's the truth. All right. I want you to drive on this, because I can lay out all the facts. I can tell folks what we do know, what we don't know, and where it's coming from and things like that. But I want, if folks are listening to this podcast, chances are that they've already heard about what happened on Thursday and the subsequent response. You took a very direct approach in your article, is what I would say. And if you want to read the article, it will be linked in the podcast description below. And
I thought you were suggesting for a second that I just straight up read the article on the podcast. I was like, that seems excessive and self-indulgent, but okay.
No, I want folks to be able to read it, because the title, it catches your eye. It says Frank White
I was pretty proud of that title.
Yeah. Playing hardball with the Royals again. So, Jeremy, give me your thoughts, man. Let me hear it all on Hawk Talk.
All right. So the first caveat I want to throw out there is that a lot of the responses I've seen to this news are that Frank White is a corrupt politician. I don't know anything about that. I'm not in Jackson County. I follow the Royals, not local politics. So I cannot comment on that. I can only comment on how Frank White is working with the Royals here. Okay. So I'm going to set that aside. However you feel about that is how you feel about that. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. I don't know. That said, Frank White commissioned a memo as he is negotiating on behalf of Jackson County with the Royals on the potential stadium stuff. And it was leaked to the media, probably intentionally. So, take that for what that's worth. A lot of media leaks actually are probably more intentional than you would think. Like they say, oh, it was leaked. Yeah, it was leaked, but somebody put it out there, and I think there's an assumption that like a bad actor or somebody who just was lazy or wanted to do something is leaking it. But a lot of times, I think what we would find if we could really dig into it is that, for example, in this case, I think Frank White probably told someone to leak this. I don't know that for sure. I'm not making an accusation. This is all insinuation and guesswork on my part, so please do not come after me legally. But I do believe that's the sort of thing that happens quite frequently. So in this case, I do expect it was probably leaked intentionally, and it suggests that the true cost of the stadium replacement for Kauffman that the Royals are looking for could be in the range of $4 to $6 billion. And the interesting part to me is not that actual number, which is almost certainly bogus. And in the best case scenario, it actually represents a worst case scenario that would be mishandling of funds, mistiming of things for Jackson County. But the interesting part to me came in the form of how do they get to that $4 to $6 billion number? And that's where the information is that I didn't have access to before. And I think you probably didn't either. So I want to highlight that part of it. So first of all, the Royals, as we know, have been asking for an extension of the 3/8 cents sales tax. They wanted to extend for another 40 years. What I didn't realize about that is that the way that works is that the county would sell bonds. And then they would pay back those bonds with interest using that sales tax. Right? So it's not like we collect the sales tax and then whatever we get, we give to the teams. It's we sell this amount of bonds and then the sales tax, we pay back those bonds. So that would be putting the county in more debt, which is, I don't think ideal. I don't think we really want to do that. What it means is that $350 million tag that the Royals cited when they said, no, that's the Frank White's report is completely insane. It's only the $350 million up front. Yeah, that's the upfront. But because what it will actually cost is $350 million plus inflation plus interest. Okay? So, whatever the amount is, it is more than $350 million. Yeah. That's the first thing. The second thing is the insurance. Apparently, the city has to insure these buildings, or the county, whatever the government entity has to insure the buildings, the infrastructure, all this stuff. Now, this is where it gets a little sketchy because one of the things that just nobody is buying is that there was a projection that the insurance rates would go up 10% a year, which is just insane. Not happening. But I hadn't considered that there would be insurance costs. And according to this report, and I think this part is probably accurate, the county currently has an under market deal on the insurance for Kauffman Stadium. And so if they build a new stadium, they're going to have to go up to the current market rates, which is going to be an increase. And plus the stadium will be more expensive, more valuable, therefore will cost more to insure even at the same rates. So that is going to be an increase. And where this $4 to $6 billion number comes from, you can't compare that. I've seen some people do this. You can't compare that to how people talk about, oh, this stadium costs this much money, this stadium costs that much money, because that's not what we're doing here. What those numbers are talking about, that is the upfront cost of that stadium.
Yeah.
And what this report is talking about is, okay, after the upfront cost, how much does it cost to pay back these bonds? How much does it cost to pay this insurance? And what I actually didn't see in the report anywhere, or what was talked about the report, because I don't think any of us have actually seen the report.
Right.
It wasn't
That's the issue.
The report was not leaked to the public. It was only leaked to the media, who then reported on it. And what I haven't seen in there is the infrastructure costs, which are going to exist. Max Reaper, when we interviewed him about the stadium a couple weeks ago, mentioned that they're going to have to upgrade the infrastructure to some degree. And that's going to be on the city. So when I look at this, I go, oh, dang, this is going to cost more than we realize. That $350 million number is not a real number. It's a starting point. It doesn't mean much beyond that. So when I say that, like, this is very interesting and I'm really fascinated by this, I don't mean, oh yeah, it's going to cost $6 billion. I mean, it's going to cost way more than $350 million in the end. And the other thing I found interesting was I saw some reporting from our friend Preston Farr at Royals Miners on his Substack. Do you remember the name of the Substack? I forgot the name of the Substack. What, say that again?
Farm to Fountains.
Farm to Fountains. Great name.
Yeah.
He talked about how Florida, when they built their new stadium, mismanaged things to the point that the final cost just on the bonds that they sold is going to be 5 times that upfront cost because they mismanaged it. So if it was $6 billion for the county, that would be some serious mismanagement of funds, but it's not outside the realm of possibility.
Right.
So these are just things to keep in mind as we're talking about this is, yes, Frank White probably made up some numbers, probably leaked a confidential document, maybe not a great person, maybe not a great guy to be on, to say this guy's on my side. But at the same time, as I wrote in my article, you got to start somewhere, and having anyone push back against a major league franchise who just says, oh, it's going to be $350 million. There's going to be so many benefits for the citizens. Well, there's no evidence that any of that is true is, you know, like you got to start somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a, wow. Well, all right. Explicit tag. It was a shitstorm on Thursday evening into Friday afternoon.
I found myself agreeing with a Republican politician, Jacob.
I know, right? I was reading through the responses. I was like, oh, well, I mean, a lot of these former Republicans or current Republicans are actually making a lot of sense. What in the world? Yeah, there was, I mean, I wouldn't say everyone and their brother was responding or had a take on it, but there was a lot of different responses coming from different directions.
Yep.
The Mayor Quentin Lucas, he had like 4 or 5 tweets about it. He had a big long Facebook post about it, talking about how like none of the stuff he's seen reflects that cost. There's a Democratic legislator, who is going to challenge Frank White for his seat. I think is where he fits into the local politics.
Oh, window. I hadn't heard that part yet.
Yeah, he appeared on like Fox 4 and 610 Sports Friday morning and had big long talks about it. Go check out the 610 Sports clip is pretty good. It's like 8 minutes long. So go check that out. Highly recommend it. I am glad that the Royals responded or put out a response to it. I am. And they took about as hard of a line as I think they could in that response.
Pretty hard line.
It was.
I think they had to, though.
Yeah. They did. They did, because that was, I mean, words from them. It is erroneous, misleading, and inconsistent. I mean, I'll plug my piece on Kings of Kaufman that you were talking about. That was at the end, looking at all the responses, looking at the backlash from it. Literally, some more transparency from all sides involved could have solved this. Could have avoided this.
There's been some responses from some people who were like, oh, well, Frank White's making up numbers. He's poisoning the well. The Royals are going to move. Frank White is not the only one making up numbers.
Yeah.
They both are. And it makes it very hard for anyone else outside to find the truth, to know how to respond.
Mm-hmm. because and I want to give people the benefit of the doubt that they're making the decisions that have to be made. But at the end of the day, like, we still haven't seen the studies and the things behind, okay, why do the Royals need to move on from Kauffman Stadium? That was a couple of years ago at this point, and we still haven't seen it. I understand that negotiations in the public sphere can get messy. The thing is, they're already messy right now, and people don't know who to trust.
Yeah, this has been a snafu, if you will, from the
jump,
the beginning, from the jump, from the word go. However many metaphors I could throw in there,
because they all fit. They all fit.
It's not been there's not been a moment where it was like, okay, this is good and reasonable, and everyone is behaving in a way that I approve of.
Mm-hmm. And actually, there's one point that we did not clarify. So the initial report talked specifically about the East Village, right? Mm-hmm. In that location. They came back later, or as in, I think it was Fox 4 who reported on this. They clarified that does not mean the Royals have finalized the location being an East Village, but that was just the location cost for the East Village.
Have I made myself clear on this point that the Royals are moving to the East Village?
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
Yeah.
You can tell me Clay County is serious about getting the Royals as many times as you want. You can tell me as loudly as you want. You could fly one of those planes. You could skywrite it. And I would still say, yeah, but the Royals want to be in East Village.
That they do.
And that's where they're going to be when this is all said and done.
Yeah. I think that's the best way forward. But I wanted to clarify that these negotiations there's a whole nother layer. There's probably 4 or 5 layers at this point.
This to me goes to the same thing we've just been talking about, where everybody is just making stuff up. The Royals are using Clay County to make Jackson County jealous.
Ooh,
is what they're doing. This is
triangle.
This is high school relationship drama where the Royals are like, you're not paying enough attention to me, so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to talk to this hot thing over here. And Clay County is like, oh, you're paying attention to me. All right. Yeah, let's do this. And the Royals have no intention of following through. They're literally just trying to make Jackson County jealous so that Jackson County will come back and be like, yes, fine, we'll give you whatever you want, baby. Please come back.
Honey, what would you call this rom-com?
I don't know.
You don't know? you don't got a title for us? Because it is it's getting messy.
Emotional manipulation.
Oof. Dang. That's tough.
Major League Drama.
Yeah. I like that. MLD.
Good drama.
That sounds a little gross. MLD.
I don't know what to tell you about that.
Yeah, I don't know.
This whole thing is a little gross.
It is. I think later on this off season, because I'm trying to think. So this is not the only stadium situation going on in the MLB. I want to clarify that the A's stuff is still going on with them, moving to LA. The Rays are trying to figure out their stuff down in Tampa Bay. There's a lot of stuff.
The Orioles just forced their homes to give them money.
Yeah. There's a lot going on, and it all depends on local politics, which kind of sucks, but that affects the on-field product.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, I don't know what corruption Frank White has been involved with, if he has been involved with corruption. I know a lot of people are saying corruption. I don't know if they're saying that the same way that people used to just call everyone they didn't like Nazis. So I don't know if they're just like, I don't like what he did, he's corrupt. I don't know. I am not there. all I know is that right now he seems to be the only guy, except for maybe Sean Smith, who is the Republican legislator I mentioned before, who is telling the Royals, "Hey, not cool, bro."
Yeah. And
I do, if Frank White is only doing that because they fired him from his broadcasting role and never gave him the opportunity to manage that he wanted, that is some amazing Schadenfreude, and I am here for it.
Here for all the tea. All right.
I wonder if Jacob remembers how to say that word in Spanish.
No, I don't. How do you say it in Spanish, honey?
Mierda.
Mierda?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's been a while. And listen.
We're now a bilingual podcast.
That we are.
Oh, yeah.
Donde está el béisbol?
People don't know that I speak Spanish fluently.
No me gusta.
I barely speak English fluently.
Well, that's what I studied in college.
Oh.
You know, that degree I paid $100,000 for that I don't use because now I'm an artist who cries a lot.
You know, just to completely derail us now, I've been getting all this, like, people should only go to college to get an education to improve their work opportunities. And I'm amused. You went to college for Spanish and then ended up as an artist, right? Yeah. So Spanish is a perfectly good thing to study for jobs, translator, all kinds of things. I went to school to study musical theater. Now I'm a computer programmer.
Time out. How did I not know this? And why are we not hosting a musical theater scene podcast together?
Because I'm not actually in the musical theater scene. I just wanted to perform.
But you like musical? How did I not know this? This is a major bonding point. We could have already been best friends, even more so.
I thought we were best friends.
Yeah, but
even without that
earlier and gone way deeper if I'd known you were into musical theater.
Oh well.
Oh, hey, you two.
And we can gang up on Jacob.
Yeah. Hey, you two. Let's get on out of here with our Royals reviews this week. All right.
All right.
Sound good?
I've got one. I'm loaded for bear.
All right, honey, are you gonna have one tonight? All right. Good. Jeremy, you said you're loaded for deer, for
bear,
for elk. Oh, for bear.
Bear.
All right, go ahead.
Some people say I'm a bear.
Hey-o.
That's a great show. I already reviewed it, but just to plug it again, wonderful show.
I'm not actually reviewing The Bear. I want to talk about Ballers for a second, because I was thinking about Ballers today or last night, and man, the first 2 seasons of that show are so good. And then the 3rd season is so bad. And then the 4th season is like, okay. And then the 5th season just derails everything, because it starts off with the assertion that Clark Hunt is tired of Tyreek Hill's shenanigans and so is going to sell the Chiefs. As if that makes any sense in any timeline. And then he sells them to a former football player who's gone broke and gotten rich like 3 times over the course of the series. So yeah, he sure he has billions of dollars to buy an NFL franchise by himself. Absolutely. And then the series ends with him offering Patrick Mahomes a fully guaranteed contract, I think for like 3 years. And the show is like, no one would do that. Everyone's furious at you now. And I'm just like, yeah, but no, they're not though. So Ballers, just watch the first 2 seasons of Ballers.
No, you have to watch the whole thing. It's one of my favorite shows.
Oh my goodness.
Also,
she loves it.
He does not buy the Chiefs alone.
Oh, he doesn't?
No,
okay.
He has backing from the brothers who funded the
that's right.
From Anderson. So He buys it in conjunction with the Anderson brothers.
But then he's the face of the thing somehow.
Yes, but that's the whole point, is because they've never had a black football team owner.
Oh.
So he's the first person of color to own an NFL team.
I don't know if that's one other thing I want to throw out there is that I do not see the NFL owners approving a former drug addict as a new owner. Oof. I don't think that, and I'm not judging him for his addiction. It was painkillers from his playing days, but I don't think the owners would approve that.
I agree, but he does fight for healthcare coverage for anybody who's played more than 3 full seasons. There is a lot of really good stuff in Ballers. There's a lot of stuff I love, especially the first 2 seasons, and there is a lot of, since we're already explicit, bullshit. Yeah. It is a beautiful series though, and it's so well written and
beautiful
so well
disaster
cast. It's a 20 out of 10. I agree with you. You have to watch it.
I'll only make you watch the first 2 seasons though.
No, you have to watch all 5 because you have to see how it ends.
If you say so. Honey, how are you? What's your review on today?
Oh, my review is on the book that I just finished. So I highly recommend, if your best friends up and move and leave you all alone, join a book club. That's how I found some new friends. And we just finished a book called The Marriage Act by John Mars. And since we are already explicit, I have to tell you, so my friend Julia was the one who recommended this one when we vote on our books, and she had already read it, right? And all of us, I think, individually texted Julia as we finished the book, like domino effect, something along the lines of, what the fuck did I just read? What the fuck did I just read? Like, what was that? So, here is your, what's it called? Little back jacket,
synopsis
of the book. There we go. I was like, it is so interesting. What if marriage was the law? Dare you disobey? Black Mirror meets thriller with a dash of Naomi Alderman's The Power in this dark, high-concept novel by the best-selling author of The One. Britain, the near future. A right-wing government that believes it has the answer to society's ills. The Sanctity of Marriage Act, which actively encourages marriage as the norm, punishing those who choose to remain singles. But 4 couples are about to discover just how impossible relationships can be when the government is monitoring every aspect of our personal lives, monitoring every word, every minor disagreement, and will use every tool in its arsenal to ensure everyone will love, honor, and obey. And so Sanctity of Marriage Act sounds really conservative. They are not actually against gay people. Sanctity of Marriage Act is just like, everybody should be married. Society is better as a whole when we are married and caring for partners, etc. You have less mental health issues. You're in more better physical health, blah, blah, blah. There's all these benefits to marriage. People work harder and live longer and XYZ. So it's not like conservative Sanctity of Marriage Act here in the US, which is, like homosexuality should be outlawed. Right? It's just like everybody should be married. It's a mindfuck. But it's phenomenal, and it's so beautifully done. If you loved Anxious People, you'll love this book. And then his other book, The One, is all about, like, you can do DNA matching for, like, who you're most compatible with, who your soulmate is. So The One explores that whole aspect of that plays into this one. They're not like a series, but it uses that concept from The One as well, where, like, people start submitting their DNA to these DNA matching sites, and it will tell you who your soulmate is, and how it's the person you are most biologically, chemically, XYZ, physically compatible with in the world. So it's phenomenal. It's really, really interestingly done. And you will love it. So go read The Marriage Act by John Mars. And it's really sweet because his acknowledgments, he basically says this is the only book he's written where it wasn't his own idea. He is married to a wonderful man, also named John, who he calls Other John in his acknowledgments. And this is an idea that
That sounds so confusing.
Right?
And it's spun out into a novel, and it's phenomenal. Jeremy, I think you'll love it. Jacob has heard bits and pieces while I've been on FaceTime with him and listening to my audiobook. Yeah, go read it. Let me know what you think. Please drop an unrelated answer in the question and answer poll, and let me know what you think of it, because
Yep. My review this week or today is going to be nice, short and sweet. It is more of a shout out than a review.
We're so over.
Yes, we are. We are very over right now. Shout out to
Remember when we wanted this podcast to be like 30 minutes?
Yeah, that's how we started out, and it's just gone off the rails from there. I think we should try to get back to that.
Maybe. Anyway, go on.
Mine is more of a shout out to my high school alma mater, Rock Creek High School in Kansas, in little old Flush, Kansas, which is just a church, one house, and a graveyard. Yes. And they won their playoff opener in Kansas playoff football action. They won 54-18. It was
it's unsportsmanlike conduct right there.
Big old curb stomping. But yeah, just shout out to them winning that game. They are playing again this upcoming Friday against Wichita Collegiate. There is a service on Facebook called Backroads Broadcasting. If you want to tune in to some local high school football there in Kansas, go check them out. They have live commentary, and you can actually watch the game, which is not, you don't see that a whole lot in small town high school sports where you can actually watch the game. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get on out of here. Listen, you can follow us. All of our social media links are down in the podcast description. The only one that I'm going to plug on my own, sorry, guys, I am starting the migration to Threads. I'm doing the thing, Jeremy. I'm going to try it. I know. As soon as I gave up on calling it Twitter, it is, I'm just going to give up on it altogether. But no, you can still find me on X too. I'm just starting to put some more stuff out on Threads at Jacob Milham Sports.
What happened to that Blue Sky invite I gave you?
I still have Blue Sky. I just need to get more integrated into it.
Okay.
I followed you.
I didn't write anything. I don't use Blue Sky. I'm awful.
Wow.
I have okay, here's the thing. Here's the problem with any of these. And everyone knows this already, so I'm just telling you something you know, but I feel the need to say this once again, as we're so far over time that I can't stop talking, is that on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, I have hundreds of followers, and I follow hundreds of people. On Blue Sky, I have 3 followers, and I follow 2 people.
Yeah.
It's not, I can't, how do I build that again from scratch? It sucks. I don't want to do it. So I'm not gonna until I absolutely have to.
Yeah, I completely agree. Honey, you're muted. So if you're yelling at okay, all right, got it. You're just wagging your finger like an older lady.
No, it was This
okay.
is wagging. This is like absolutely.
No, I thought it was this, not this.
No.
All right, we're over. If you're still listening to this, I appreciate your patience with